Welcome back to the official Atari Games podcast. This is Jason here, joined by a large group of fellow Atarians here. I got Ethan. He's back, VP of Games. Sharuk Faridi, Marketing Coordinator. Sam Brown, Publishing and Compliance Coordinator. It's a fancy title. Anyway, we're here hot off the heels of PAX West. And that's basically what we're going to talk about today. News-wise, well, a lot of stuff was all focused on that. Not many new announcements coming up, but just general reminder. Days of Doom's coming out next week, so be sure to wishlist that. Pre-order it if you'd like. Wishlisting if you just want to do the bare minimum. That would be wonderful. Just go over there to Steam, click that wishlist button, tell 5 friends, or bad luck will haunt you for 10 years. And then pass it on.
Does that apply to us as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man,
they should bring back chain mail. Chain mails, chain letters.
Yeah,
that should come back.
Texts.
Circle mails.
We should
I feel like that
incorporate
happens sometimes on like Instagram stories. I get the ones that are like, if you don't post a funny picture, then your dog's gonna die or something.
Wow, that's dark.
Yeah,
No,
that
maybe
got
that's just
dark.
me who gets that.
I prefer the ambiguous ones where it's like bad luck's going to happen, or sometime in the future you're going to trip and you're going to stub your toe.
Right.
Hey, marketing guys, make that happen. Incorporate that into the next
Chainmail?
Yeah, like chain letters with vague threats.
Sure. I like the inappropriate holiday ones that I won't repeat.
Fair enough. Well, look, we got a lot to talk about for PAX, so we're going to skip the news, but I do have a warm-up question, which I'm quite excited about. Because, look, I like to keep the warm-up questions like not so much game-related, but somewhat current to the pop culture, to the pop culture sphere, so to speak. And what's everybody talking about this week? Aliens. So we're going to go around, and you're going to answer 2 questions. Aliens. Are they out there, and are they here? Ethan.
Are they out there, and are they here?
Yes.
Is it both things?
You need to answer both of those questions. Are aliens... because if they're here, they obviously exist, and they are out there, but they're also here.
I think
right?
the question's also like, what makes up an alien? Like, I mean, are there bacterias and things that were at one point in the outer space?
I will leave this up to you. Look, fun coincidence here. You're the first person on this list to answer the question, so tell us. Take us wherever you like.
Well, are aliens out there? I mean, quantum physics tells us that, of course, in an infinite universe, that there are, we exist. Not only do aliens exist, but some version of us, wearing each other's shirts. I'm wearing the DuckTales shirt, in that universe as an alien. I exist out there. And then, are they here? I don't think so. I don't think that they're here.
All right, fair enough. Shaw, what say you? Aliens. Are they out there? And are they here?
They're out there. I believe that they are zooming. The universe is way too big for us to just be alone in it. I'm pretty sure there's fucking weird creatures out in the universe. I don't believe that they're here, though. I think they have like more important things to do than spy on us. We're not that exciting. We're just going to kill each other. Aliens have better things to do.
Wow, you took it to a fun place. Sam, aliens. Out there, out here.
Aliens out there? Probably. Out here? Probably not.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I'm last then. Out there, no doubt. For sure. There's something out there. Are they here? Man, I want them to be. I love like the ancient alien stuff and those crazy theories, and then like those History Channel shows where you get a bunch of military guys in a room, and they're like, and there's like 12 guys, and 11 of them say the same story, and then that one guy's like, well, not exactly like that, and then they're like, oh, we almost had it. Why would he say that? That's not what happened. He knows what happened. He was there. They got to him. I want to believe it. Realistically, probably not.
Well, what if they're like so incredibly small because like they live in a universe where they're very, very small that we just don't ever see them? There are millions of them who live on this planet, and they've been here. They got here in like the early '60s, like on a piece of a meteorite or something, and they've been here.
Woodstock.
They've colonized.
So what are they doing every day?
Like they hitched a ride with Tom Cruise on Apollo 13, and they just said, "Oh, we're here now."
Yeah,
Tom Cruise.
Sorry, Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know. Like
Tom Cruise went to space. Remember?
I love that. Was it I can't remember if it was a Rick and Morty or a Futurama episode. I think it was a Futurama where like Bender was like floating in space, and an entire like civilization like formed on his stomach.
Yeah, he became God, and then he met God. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Great episode. Probably one of my favorites. Anyway.
Okay, so follow-up question. Is there a God? Is God out there? No.
we'll save that warm-up question for another episode, I think. That's a good one. Yeah, because I think we all have strong opinions on that. Good call, though. Yeah, to be continued, because we got a lot of ground to cover. We're at PAX West. That's all we're going to be talking about for this episode.
Yes.
So that's the topic of the show. That's what we're going to talk about here. What I want to do is start with a general history with PAX. I think we all have various histories with it. And Ethan, I know you have some more intimate history, so to speak. That's maybe not the best word for it, but whatever. Kick us off. What's your history with PAX?
You know what's really crazy is we did a internal meeting this week where I talked about PAX, and before that meeting, I did some research. I didn't realize that the first year I went to PAX was like the second or third year it existed, because. Back in college, this is going to date me, I guess. I was reading, Penny Arcade a bunch. Like I loved Penny Arcade and Control. I think it was Control Delete. I think was one of them. There was a bunch of other like video game related web comics, and and I always wanted to go to gaming events when I would sneak into E3 because I live in Los Angeles area, so I would like go and sneak into E3 and stuff. I always wanted to like go to these game events, and like PAX was the first one that I ever knew of where it was like this is where gamers were collecting together to do stuff. And I used to go. I went once when I was in college, and then I didn't go back for a number of years until I went again. But I think I've gone for like 8 years in a row, maybe, or 9 years in a row now. I guess, of course, I missed like a year, maybe 2 years for the pandemic. But yeah, I love going up there. I love Seattle.
So just West? Have you ever been to East?
I've never been to East or South, and believe it or not, I've also never been to Australia. Well, I've been to Australia. I never went to PAX Australia.
Got it. Shaw, what about you? What's your history with PAX?
My history with PAX, I watched a lot of PAX panels. Like in college, like Giant Bomb and Game Grumps and all those guys that would do panels, like they would have like 2-hour long panels at PAX, and that's what got me super interested in like games in general. And then I didn't have the opportunity to go until I went to PAX East last year at my previous job. So I hung out in Boston and just played a bunch of indie games, and that was a really fun show. It was a different vibe from West. Which maybe we'll get into, but like PAX East is like a giant room where West was like split into different halls. And yeah, that was my first PAX experience. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that's actually worth taking a little bit of a detour here because that is unique to this year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of. I mean, in the convention floor is normally the single building,
right?
But this year, of course, Nintendo took over the entire South Hall, and but there was a really awesome. I thought the new building where we were set up was such a cool building, and like had all these floors, and you kept going up.
Yeah.
And every like banquet room you'd go into had all kinds of cool stuff in it. But in the past, like especially in like I remember in like I don't know 2015, 2016, I feel like. When it was so big, it was all across downtown. Like all the hotels had panels going on in them, basically, and there were like events that were not. Some of them were sort of tangentially related to the PAX. They'd be like, I don't know. They would be like a D&D party, or there would be like a tournament for some game, or I don't know. There would be just like a brand takeover of like an area of downtown, which. Over the since 2019, even 2019, I feel like it was less. So, anyways, it has been stretched across the city in the past. It usually is. The convention floor, no. The convention floor was normally all in one building.
Got it. Sam, what about you? What's your history with PAX?
I'm probably the least experienced with PAX. Like I would read the webcomic back in the day. Back in the day for me is like the mid 2000s. But I went to my first PAX East this year actually because I won I won a 4-day badge in a raffle online, and that was so much fun. Like I've never been to a convention like of that size before. And then obviously I went to PAX West with all you guys, and it like blew my mind like how much bigger it was in comparison.
Well, I actually have you beat with less experience in PAX because I've been to PAX East for one day, and that was back in maybe 2011, 2012. And I don't even know why I was one in Boston, two why I went to PAX East. I was just there. I remember staying at a Kimpton. I remember having a decent dinner. That was it. And then I went there, showed up, got the train back, probably ate a train dog on an Amtrak. Anyway,
Train dog.
that's train
Those are
dog.
good.
Well, they could be worse.
I guess it depends on where you're getting it.
Amtrak train dog. Well,
I also
Sam,
just love too. I'll just say too about like PAX
Yeah.
West, which I think is, which makes it kind of special to me. I think, and I don't know, but like that's where that community started. That's where Gabe and Tycho they originally threw that first one in Bellevue, I think, and then so there's just something about it being this real grassroots thing. I mean, it's definitely got its corporate overlords on it now, and there's a lot of organization to it. But it really kind of started there. It feels to me, maybe it's because that's most of the time when I go to Seattle, I go there for PAX. But like, it feels like it's part of the city, which I love. And like all the fans and people who are there are like every hotel, every restaurant you go to, it just feels like people who love games and board games and general game culture are all in that city for that weekend, and it's so awesome.
Yeah, I was really surprised at the scale of PAX West. Like, it's coming from like only going to PAX East that one time. It felt so indie, and just a year later, like going to PAX West, it feels like you're at like a big old video game conference. And the scale of it and who was there and how many people we saw, like it felt like a legit show. And I think maybe like coming off of E3 not existing anymore is a reason for that. But I'm interested to see like where PAX goes next year.
Yeah, it's cool to see Doug Bowser in a Starbucks and run into Shuhei Yoshida at a PlayStation party. Look at me, I'm name dropping. Here we go.
I thought you were already friends with these guys. Don't you just go hang out with them?
Yeah,
you play like I was trying to come up with a Japanese RPG game, but
go ahead, go ahead, just throw one out there. What do you think we play?
I don't even know.
With cross-platform support. Could be anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. Could be maybe Genshin. I don't even play Genshin. I don't play that.
But is Genshin on Switch?
Oh no, they announced it on Switch, but
I thought Genshin is on. I thought it was like a PlayStation exclusive.
It is. It hasn't come out on Switch. They did announce it when it first was revealed.
My brain went immediately blank when I tried to pull up a
We're playing Monster Hunter. We'll just call it
Monster Hunter. There we go.
There you go. That's fun. Everybody loves
Monster Hunter now on on mobile.
What's the one about the high schoolers?
Yeah, that's the one.
Persona?
No, we don't. Sadly, I wish. Hey, look, if Shu and Doug, if you guys are listening, let's play some Monster Hunter. Let's get out there and hunt some monsters. It's a lot of fun. We'll jump on Monster Hunter Rise. Great game. I want to shake up the order a little bit because we'll get into the actual nuts and bolts of the actual Atari presence and how it went down. But I want to know, and I'm kind of making guesses here on who will have the most to least amount of things to say here. So Shaw, I'll start with you. What is your prior convention experience from the booth side perspective, from like having presence at a convention versus showing up as a consumer?
This is weird. This was my first. Well, we had Play NYC like last month or something.
Yep.
That was
I put you on the spot because I feel like you and I are going to be pretty similar.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, Play NYC was the first time like I was manning a booth and like as a company, but like before that, in like a previous life, I would work a lot of conferences, like selling booth spaces.
Oh.
So I was like on that side of it for a few years. So I was like familiar with how some things worked, and like running a show per se. But this was my first time on a like I'm an exhibitor at a conference, at a big
So let's say
conference like
like
PAX.
let's say hypothetically, let me put you back in this role as a previous life, right? Let's say hypothetically you sell some boot space to somebody, right?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you sell some boot space to somebody immediately next to them, and they're putting up like this giant wall, like right next to that
Interesting.
booth that would basically block the entire conference in like looking at it like I don't know, a 60-degree angle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
what would you like say something, or would you just be like, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool
yeah.
looking wall.
I would avoid that
Hypothetically speaking, of
exhibitor.
course.
I would avoid that exhibitor at all costs.
Oh,
Hypothetically
wow.
speaking, I would see the wall and go, I'm not going to talk to them because they're
I meant selling
probably
the boot
mad at
space
me.
from like the, if you run like the PAX side of things, hypothetically, would you be like,
I,
hey
you
man,
know, for something like that, I would probably like let somebody know, like, hey, by the way, these guys are going to be here and they're going to erect a 60-foot wall
Hmm.
in the air with giant signage, so nobody's going to see your booth.
Right. That's a
you
good,
know, a
yeah,
courtesy email, maybe.
sure. That's a great hypothetical situation.
Yeah,
I'm
not
gonna
that would ever happen.
No, that would never happen. Now I'm gonna go next here as a prior experience. Basically the same. We did Play NYC, also for the Tribeca Festival. Partly involved. I was involved with that. I mean, the
I
three of
forgot
us
about
were
Tribeca.
involved. Yep, that happened this year. Believe it or not, it's just
Yeah.
crazy to think about. Also, I was there on the show floor at GDC showing off Pixel Ripped earlier this year as well. That was an experience because that was the first time showing people how to play a VR game, and that's kind of it for me. Sam, you have the absolute most interesting answer to this question, so take this away.
Well, okay. So I don't have a lot of experience at like these industry shows. Like the most I really attend regularly for that is like NYCC every year. But I do visit a lot of like fan conventions, like anime video game conventions, like a MagFest, all the different anime conventions. I used to go just for fun. Nowadays, my fiance is usually working in the artist alleys, so I'm along for the ride, helping her man her booth and the register and everything.
Oh yeah, who's your fiance? Why don't you give that a plug? Why don't you drop the name here?
You can look up Dressy Deer on Etsy and whatever social media you might have. Sells lots of cute fan art, original art, stationery. It's all good.
Great.
All good stuff.
Enough of the ads. Okay,
Shameless plug.
Censor all that out.
Perfect. Yeah, it's just gonna be a bunch of like censor. Like you just dropped some foul things. Yeah, we can't be selling that. We can't be selling that kind of stuff out here. Yeah, check that out. Check out Dressy Deer on Etsy. But yeah, that somehow you underplayed the amount of these conventions that you go to. But we'll leave it there for the.
I'm
How many
usually
do you go
at
to
one of these
a year?
conventions like every other weekend, at least over the summer. It's like pretty much every other weekend. It
Would you
starts
say
to
like
slow
20
down
to
a little
30
now.
a year?
A year, probably. That sounds about right. Maybe a
was it
little
okay
more.
how I presented it at the company meeting? I realized I was trying to I was trying to not like put you too much on the spot or like dox you or anything. I was just trying to like speak to how much experience you have with it.
Yeah. No, that was good. I got I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the shout out.
I felt like we should leave the doxing for this, and doxing accomplished. All right, Ethan. Not only do I want to know prior experience, I want you to also lead into the strategy, like from that experience and what your strategy was. Because as you were the kind of the lead on putting this whole thing together, what was the drive? So where did you come from? Where did you go?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Yeah, I have done a bunch of different event stuff. 'Cause I have kind of like a prior life, two weird prior lives, right? Where like one part of it was I used to do San Diego Comic-Con a lot. I used to work at a film studio back in the day, and we would do like a pretty significant presence at Comic-Con every year and spend, millions of dollars on activations and booths and all kinds of stuff. And so I'd get really involved with that. So I had a lot of experience doing Comic-Con on like a big show floor scenario like that. I've also done like other like trade show events in like Vegas, like CES, and I did a couple GameStop shows, which you also went to recently. So that was another
Yes.
show you went to, Jason.
Oh yeah, that's true. That was the least setup ever, so that was pretty good.
Sometimes this is like that though.
That's the ideal. Show up, talk to people for 4 hours about your game, and then leave. Also, bring a growler of root beer and try to harass people to bring you ice for said warm root beer because your refrigerator is freezing all your drinks and would shatter a glass bottle.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
I
good
mean, root
hypothetical.
beer is an old timey drink, so can't you just like leave it at room temperature, like out
Yeah, but
in
it's
the
not. I
sun?
like cold drinks. What's the point of drinking lukewarm? No one wants lukewarm
I
anything.
don't know, just washes the palate.
No one.
Um,
No one says, "What do you like? Hot drinks or cold drinks?" I prefer lukewarm.
That should have been your intro question.
So I also used to
Let's save
do
that for
these
later.
really weird art installation things. So I in another life I also did a lot of these like VR like interactive installations. And a number of them had to do with like installing motion capture volumes at in like museums or places and then set up these weird, I don't know. So like kind of what we did at Tribeca was
Hmm.
I had done a couple events like that where we did kind of I had some behind the scenes experience with that and like creating customer flow like viewer experiences, stuff like that. So and some of that I used to do when I was at the film company as well. But anyways, so coming into PAX, I really was like wanted us to just be on the show floor and just to talk to people. I think that we went to Play NYC in when was that? The beginning of August, right? Like
Yeah.
the first week
Yeah.
of August. And when we did that, the goal of Play NYC because it's kind of in Atari's backyard because Atari's based out of New York, so it was an easy show for us to bring a bunch of stuff to set up, and talk to people. It's a really small show, but I found like what was the most rewarding was people would walk up and they would ask like, Atari's here, like that's crazy. Like, what does Atari do? What is Atari doing? And I found it most rewarding to just talk to those people and just be like, oh, we got this, and this is what the hardware team's doing. This is what we're doing on the game side, and like that was so great. And so going into PAX, that was really the primary thing we wanted to do. Right, was just we want to be part of the conversation when people think about what's going on in games. I think so often people know the brand of Atari, but don't know what we're up to and what we're doing. And as much as we are doing things internally, we know there's so much happening here at Atari. I think oftentimes we lack that opportunity to talk directly to gamers and talk directly into the community. I mean, we do it through our social channels and stuff, but those social channels only get so far. They only really get to our followers. So for like the random gamer who plays Path of Exile and is waiting in a Path of Exile line against the huge wall that's blocking our booth for an entire day.
Allegedly.
Wants to like
Image.
come in, like they're like, oh look, there's Atari, and maybe they walk by and they see, and maybe they don't have a nostalgic connection to Atari, but they
Yeah.
know the brand. They can walk by and check it out, see our games, and again, even if they didn't touch a game, didn't see anything, didn't talk to us, just walk past our booth amongst everything else that's at PAX. I think that is valuable, and that was kind of the kernel of what the strategy was going into PAX. Like, let's go talk to people, remind them that we make games, and then it ended up being there was a lot of additional stuff we ended up adding to that. Like as once we had the booth space, like there was a lot of other opportunities to work with other teams within Atari to showcase a bunch of cool shit that we were doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was basic. That was kind of the basic strategy. I don't know about you guys, and then I'll put this back on you. But like, have you guys ever been to like shows like CES or like other game shows? Have you ever gone as like consumers to other conventions in the past, like game shows?
I'll let
Not
these
game
guys
shows
answer.
like Jeopardy, but
Mhm.
like game conventions.
I wish. I'll let you guys answer first.
No.
No, yeah, like I said before, like I haven't been to any industry shows before, like this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I would love
I-
to go to those and just walk through and just because you walk past the like if you go to CES and you walk past
Yeah.
the Sony booth, I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to look. I just go walk through it, and I can look like, oh, that's this TV. They're pushing washing machines. They have this stuff, and you can kind of like see like, oh, this is what Sony's up to, in like 5 seconds.
So I can speak to it because I love going to conventions. I had the privilege of going to a few E3s. Even like between my industry experience, I still was able to go to E3 just like as a fan when it was industry only. So that was pretty cool to do. I went to CES for a lot of years in a row and that's actually one of my favorite shows in general, just because it's everything and it's the most over the top productions of anything. And you get the wildest stuff where you're just thinking to yourself, well, that's not real. Like you're just straight up lying. The best example of this is there was these guys trying to sell a dresser that was like a laundry machine, but it would also fold your stuff. And they would just you could tell it's just like, okay, cool. They got an idea. They got investment. They tried to make it work after the fact and then just couldn't make it work. So they showed up to a few of these and then just didn't. It just never happened. But I also love how, in these conventions as well is the amount of stuff that's being taken up in the center with like the large, big temple stuff. So in something like CES, you'd have your Samsungs, your LGs, and then it gets progressively smaller as you go to the outside to the point where you get all these foreign ones around the outside, like at your, and then to the point, CES is the craziest one because you get all these knockoff Chinese hardware device and you're like, is that an iPad? Nope, not an iPad. Looks like an iPad. But then you turn it on and it's like, oh, it's actually running Linux or something. That's strange. This looks like a Switch. Oh, it's not a Switch. It's just a bulky, portable PC device. But yeah, I love those things. I love going around and just finding new stuff. Going to E3 and again, walking around the outside is always the most interesting thing for me at these conventions. Walking around the outside and seeing what's there because you already know about everything that's in the middle. It's what's around the outside that's more interesting. That's how I discovered the game so many years ago, a game called El Shaddai. I'll never forget walking around the outside of E3 and just seeing El Shaddai and being like, what is this? And I love that game. And I saw, I think Sean and Sam, you guys both nodded like, yeah, you know that game. Ethan, you know El Shaddai, or does that sound like one of those made up games?
I don't know that game. I probably
Did
should.
they re-release it recently, or am I making that up?
Yeah, they every so often it pops up. I don't know if they actually did really. Look, I gave them their money when it came out.
Was it like an old PS2 game or something?
It was on 360 and PS3, I believe.
Okay.
Very cool looking, very interesting, very unique. But
I guess part of my point there was that like I think you can walk around E3 and you have this visual reference of the entire industry. You're like, oh, this is the industry. These are all the people. These are all the companies. These are all the games that make up what's going on right now. And so I think there's an element of being at a convention like PAX with with the big glowing Atari logo and a bunch of our games to show off to just put a stake in the ground and remind people that we are part of that community.
Well, describing the booth is interesting because you said that big glowing Atari logo, and that was actually on the side that I was on. So the whole booth setup itself, to give a brief overview, is you basically had this big cube right in the middle. On one side in the front, you had the merch table with like that really cool pattern that was designed with like a lot of the vector graphics on it, and that was the merch at the front. Going around, let's say, hang on, I'm like imagining a clock, bird's eye view. We're going counterclockwise. Then you had the 2600 plus on the side, and then demos of Mr. Run and Jump, which did speed runs for. And Ethan, I'll never forgive you for reading my score after I was so happy that I got it. Then let's see. Then next to that was Haunted House, and then Atari 50. Going around to the next side was the Atari 50 arcade cabinets from Arcade 1-Up. And then going around to the other side there, which is where I spend most of my time, was Days of Doom, Lunar Lander, and Quamp 2. But that side also had this giant glowing Atari logo. And the amount of people who would go by and just want to take pictures in front of that thing was quite a heartening thing to see. So I think it did a pretty good job of attracting people. Just seeing this giant white glowing thing would have been great if there wasn't a giant wall blocking that. I want to go back to Shaw and kind of go down. He could start here with this question, which is, what are the highlights? What would you say were a couple of the highlights that, from your perspective, from the event. And that could be anything. That could be highlight success from the Atari perspective, own personal highlights. I know you got to meet some people you were kind of excited to. So just kind of go run wild with some positivity here.
I guess I'll start with the actual like booth building part of it. Like Ethan and I got there Wednesday, like afternoon or whatever, and you just get there and it's just like you see skeletons of like all of these gigantic booths that are starting to come up. And so like kind of walking into the hall for the first time, kind of like smelling that like convention air, which is a thing. And then you start to see things kind of start to come together. And then like being able to see the whole thing come up. We saw the wraps go up, the lights turn on, the demo stations start to be built, and then you can start to kind of envision like where everything's going to be, where people are going to start walking into, what they're going to be attracted to the most, and figuring out how to position things. Like that's the stuff that I really loved doing, kind of at the beginning of the show. And then, yeah, honestly, it was just like huge highlights for me. A part of that, aside from that, is just seeing how excited people were to come like play Atari games, especially seeing like kids with their parents. Like growing up, like my parents would never take me to a gaming convention because like couldn't afford it, and they weren't like happening all the time like they are now. So like seeing like parents like with their kids showing them games and talking about like Atari and the stuff that they grew up with and hanging out with them while they like play demos. Like I watched this like little girl with her parents like frustrate her way through Quamp 2 until the point where she was just mastering it, and I was like, this is amazing. Like because like it's not like our target demo when we're talking about marketing a game. It's like parents who are showing kids their video games. You kind of only get that when you go to these shows. So like moments like that where you just kind of see families walk around and play games, selling merch, like those rushes where people would just kind of come up and they'd be like, I need a medium, I need a large, I need this. And it's just like you kind of like get into the groove of like pulling shirts out and everyone's like, where is it? I can't find it. And like freaking out and like getting those sales, like that's a fun rush. And then I could keep going, but I think the last one is probably like
that's fine. You're good.
Meeting Giant Bomb was really, really cool. They came around the booth. Like those guys are, I wish I got to talk to them more, but they were kind of just walking around. They're like the reason I got into games. So it was really cool. Like just chatting with them for a little bit and shaking some hands. So coming to these shows, just like, again, just meeting people and like, you never know who's going to like come around the corner or who's going to walk up and tell you some story about Atari or get excited about a game that you didn't really picture they would get into. So yeah, it was a lot of moments like that really, really stuck out to me.
Very cool. Sam, what about you? What were some of the highlights?
I mean, a lot of similar stuff, like seeing everything, walking around, seeing all the booths. I really enjoyed, since this is sort of my first job in the games industry. I really enjoyed like meeting all of these other industry people and indie developers like face to face, having conversations with them. I really enjoyed. So we had a inflatable suit for our character, Mr. Run and Jump, and I spent like about, what would you say, like a few hours, like over both of the days.
Yeah, I think so.
Running around in that suit, interacting with people at the expo, running around outside in the streets of Seattle. We filmed a lot of good stuff. That was really fun. That was a big highlight for me.
I got to ask. So, okay, you got to tell this story because basically there was a stage that had Just Dance. And they were just running Just Dance on this thing the whole time. I think it was even using a Kinect, which was interesting.
Yeah. They had that at PAX East as well.
Right. And there was a guy constantly there, and he was doing everything. And Sam jumps into this thing as Mr. Run and Jump to play Just Dance. And it was entirely his idea. He's like, oh, hey, Mr. Run and Jump's got to do Just Dance. Mr. Run and Jump's got to do Just Dance. And he does this thing. I just want to know, what was it like playing Just Dance as basically this, for those who don't know what this looked like, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
I could barely see out of it while I was like jumping around and doing everything, and like started to like fog up in there in the one spot that I could look out of. But I could like barely glance at the screen to see an idea of the movements I was supposed to be doing. It was really funny.
It's hard enough to get those moves down, even when you're not wearing a crazy mask suit thing.
I think
that dude was killing it.
Like some amount of points though, right? Like I
have a picture of your end screen here somewhere.
Yeah,
I think there were some perfects in there. So
yeah, the funniest thing about it though is because it's just like this giant white ball that he's basically in. Sam is legit trying to do the moves, but like as if he wasn't in the suit. So you oftentimes will see this thing moving around and just like see the imprint of Sam like banging against this outfit. And it's so ridiculous and hilarious looking. It's kind of like that scene at the end of in Ace Ventura when Nature Calls, where he's like trying to get through the rhino, but it's like Sam's face hitting the white sheet of Mr. Runjump like he's trying to escape. It's amazing.
That's exactly
there were points where I was trying to maneuver the arms around, but it just looks like I'm trying to like break out of the suit. You can see my hands.
Yeah, it was hard to maneuver it around.
We'll have to get a V2.
You got a score of 1,500, so you got some points, and
that's pretty good.
A rating of crazy. I don't know.
Ooh,
that sounds
crazy.
Great.
Nice.
I mean,
never played Just Dance in my life, but that sounds great.
The guy you were playing with though got a superstar rating. He had 11,000.
Well, he was on top of that thing.
He was amazing.
So
he was real good.
I think he's still there, probably.
Yes,
dancing on that stage.
They say he's still there to this day.
That's another great thing about the PAX community, though. It's like there is a place for you to go play. It's not just like whatever the newest trend is. It's also just like play anything or celebrate any component or era or moment in gaming. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And it is such a welcoming community. It seems like people were hyping him up.
Totally.
Like he had a crowd around him.
There was one guy while we were chasing Sam around, and you guys, shout out to Bianca on our side to social media. But Shaw, you and her were actually actively like going around trying to make him do these things. And there was one guy who asked me, he's like, "What is that thing?" And I said, "It's Mr. Run and Jump." I said, "It's a game. You could get it." I was like, "Get it now on Steam." He's like, "You just got yourself a wish list." He's like, "Great marketing." And did it right there in front of me. It was great. I got to go next on the highlights. And just say that I was firmly planted between Days of Doom and Lunar Lander Beyond. And that was most of my experience, other than like the 10 minutes that I was selling stuff without any training on the till. So hopefully everybody got charged in the last hour of that for things. But anyway, other than that, that's basically where I was. And it was just very cool. Play NYC was the first time I actually got to see people play Days of Doom firsthand, like right in front of me. And that just seemed really well received in that moment. And see that times like infinite more for PAX and seeing a lot of positivity and people wish listing and seeing some of the results afterwards. Like it's always heartening to see something that, just in general, when you put a lot of time into a game and you see, or any project, and you see people play it and actually enjoying the thing, even in those brief moments, putting aside whatever happens with the final, with the final release or review scores, whatever they may be, those moments are still awesome and make it worthwhile. So seeing that, it was the first time seeing Lunar Lander being played. And, you talk about people from prior generations who are familiar with Atari versus younger players or who have never played a game like this before. Lunar Lander makes no qualms about being about controlling like the classic Lunar Lander. It's way more forgiving than the original, looks completely different, has a whole lot of new stuff, but the gameplay is still very much that gravity flyer that it was a term I didn't know existed until we released Gravatar Recharged. And seeing people play it and wrap their heads around the controls, you could easily tell who knows what this is, who doesn't. And then when you get the pairings of people who did and didn't, and seeing the one behind them like kind of lord over their kid while he struggles, and they're just laughing, like, let me show you how it's done, and then go in and just absolutely nail it with precision because they know how these games control. It was great to see. Also, people don't read. We tell people immediately what the how to play the game, and they're just like, whatever, I know how to play a game, and then they just jump in and they don't. So learned that. That's a lot of fun. Also, you know what I'm going to say. Got to give a shout out to the Lords of Gaming who came by.
Yeah. I had to play that video on the.
I know, it was great. I mean, look, I was caught off guard because I'm a big fan of Lord Cognito for his work on Defining Duke and Xbox Podcast, and he always calls himself Lord Turn Based. So I called him out on Twitter to come by the booth, and he answered the call. So he came by along with King David and Lord Addict from the Lords of Gaming. Funny story with King David. This guy starts playing Lunar Lander, and he's into it. Lord Addict, basically after the first time he plays it, he's like, hey, can I get the control? He's like, hey, can I go next? And King's like, no, you may not. Absolutely not. You got to pry this thing out of my hands if you wanted. So he was really into Lunar Lander, and that was great. But Addict got on Days of Doom, and I got interviewed by Cognito. And that was awesome. Really caught me off guard when he started the interview saying, who is this fine gentleman next to me? That I did not know how to respond to when he said that. But it was an absolute pleasure to meet those guys. And the enthusiasm is unmatched. And it was great. And it just kind of encapsulates, the enthusiasm that came from anybody else who came by the booth. You never know. You're coming from Atari. You hear all the chatter. You hear all the nonsense of people who want to come at us for whatever history we may or may not have in their opinion. But to just see general overwhelming positivity from people who come to the booth, that is the ultimate highlight. So, Ethan, bring us home with the highlight. I want to know two things from you. Yet again, you get the two first, because the one I want to know your highlights, and two, I want to know, just for you, we won't go around the horn on this one, what would you do differently for next time? As I hope this is not the last time we do something like this, although we have nothing to announce at this time. I'd like to know some of the learnings you may have found as the leader of this.
I mean, I think the highlight for me was, maybe this sounds selfish, but like I think the highlight for me was being having everyone from our team there. Like I think like it was really cool to be and show off the games and all of the stuff you guys were talking about. Like all those moments I think were really special. But I think for me, like we so often interact with one another this way, like you and Sam sometimes are together in the office. Sean and I rarely get to spend time together. So having the whole team in one place together, like with a purpose, was really awesome. That was probably my favorite part of the event. I also love just getting my hands dirty and like doing something, like building something up and doing it and then completing it and like walking away and like we did something today. So I always like that sort of thing. I do something different. I'm not sure. I think I'd love to have. There are things that I'd love to like upgrade. We talked about doing kind of like cooler, more like arcade cabinet type like demo stations. I think maybe we could talk through like other like merch strategy stuff that maybe simplifying that a bit more can be interesting. I don't know. I felt like we did a lot of thought on it. I kind of was happy with what we did. I think we maybe like have less things. That could be a learning. Like we had a lot of stuff there that we were talking about, and it came. I don't know how. Like if someone came by the booth and wanted to know everything, it was kind of a lot for them to take in and walk away with. So maybe having like less games or less other like product and things that we were talking about, or other things from Atari. But generally, though, I felt like I kind of was happy with what we did.
I agree.
It's tough though, because like I feel like we're in like a proving stage right now, where like we need to like prove that we're like we know what we're doing in like the indie video game space. That I think like
we do,
and like it's like I feel like that's why we like have to show a lot of things.
Don't tell them otherwise.
We do. We're really good at our jobs, but I feel like that's why like this is our first PAX, right? So it's like I feel like that's why we need to like go like like we have all these games, we have all these things going on. So I agree with you. Like I want to be able to get to a point where we're just like, here's like 3 really good games, and you're gonna play them and you're gonna like them. But now we're kind of like, you know, we're spreading our wings a little bit.
There was a lot of learning on the boring shit that no one's gonna know about or talk about, of like behind the scenes on how we like get stuff onto the floor and where to ship things and how to manage stuff and what type of electrical power to have.
Sure.
All types of that type of stuff that I think that going back we could be more efficient. But none of that's exciting to talk about on a podcast.
No, but I will say I did not understand how strong Ethan was until I saw this man like just throwing around these full totes. That I was like, I could probably use some help lifting this one, and then he just goes in and just like gorilla, he just throws this thing over this giant.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Crazy.
I got that strength. It was I don't know what you're talking about though.
It happened. Totes? It was at the end. It was the last day. Yeah, you had like those big black totes.
Chests.
Oh, like the containers?
Yeah, the things that were absolutely filled with heavy shit, and you just throw them around like it was nothing. And then you're like, I'm tired.
Like, okay. I had all of everything that we packed that was ours in my driveway, and I had 2 folding tables out, and I had everything pulled out, and I was like going through, looking at inventories, trying to like find like the POS system. I was like, it's got to be in here somewhere. I'm like digging through T-shirts, and I was like, where did the 2600 pluses go? Like, I was thinking in my head, I was like, are those the only 2 2600 pluses that we have? And I don't know where they are. They're in some random box in my garage. So I figured that all out. So yeah, I don't know.
Sweet.
Throw stuff around.
Good stuff. Well, anybody else have anything they want to say about PAX that we didn't talk about? No? Right on. Well, then we nailed it. Good stuff. Hey, it was a lot of fun. And hopefully we get to do that again soon. And hopefully if you're listening, you didn't get to make it, you get to make it out when we do some sort of in-person event. As always,
Atari will be at Portland Retro Game Expo, right. Which is the I think it's the 14th to the 16th. Maybe someone check my math on that, but like it'll be really fun. There's a couple things that Atari is bringing up there to go along with what Atari Age is doing at the Portland Retro Game event. So I don't think any of us are going. I might go, but that's a cool place to go up and interact with more Atari people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good stuff. Good call. All right. As always, I'd like to end these podcasts by just general chat about video games. Let's talk about some games. What are we playing? Sam, haven't heard from you in a while. Why don't you start us off?
I have to run, guys. I'm gonna go. I'll let you guys keep talking. I'll just say that like I'm playing Starfield and I've fallen asleep twice while playing it. I really want to get into it, and I think maybe I'm just old. But that was my problem.
Yeah, Ethan knows how to make a box quote just on the fly.
I fell asleep twice.
Yep. I've never done that with a video game where I've like fallen asleep. I like wake up and I like have the controller in my hand, and I was like, oh yeah, I was talking to that lady.
Just still waiting for your response.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, Sam. What have you been playing?
So I'm nearing the end of Pikmin 4. I'm on like the last, I think, like the last map of the game. But I actually taken a small break from that to finish Jedi Survivor, because I'm actually I was at the end of that game and then I dropped it for whatever reason. I got distracted by other games, so I'm actually finishing that up later tonight.
Hell yeah!
All right, cool. Shaw.
I have been slowly getting my way through Armored Core. Nice. I think, like Ethan was talking about Starfield, I was really excited for Armored Core just because it's a FromSoft game. And I'm playing it, and I'm like, it's not grabbing me like their other games have. It's still fun, and it's still challenging, and I like flying around and dodging and feeling like a Gundam and blowing things up. But the gameplay loop is just like, I don't know, just like the starting and stopping missions thing slows me down a bit. I'm gonna finish it. It's gonna take me time. And today I started Gumbrella,
Nice.
like in the middle of the day. I just threw it on for like 45 minutes and played it a little bit. It's fun. It's a Devolver game. It's like a little dark. It's got some cool humor to it, like weird characters. the movement mechanics are kind of weird because you kind of use your like umbrella to like boost yourself in certain directions. So it's taking me some time to get used to, but I'm liking it so far. I think I'll probably finish it maybe this weekend.
Cool. Now for Armored Core,
Mm-hmm.
is that your first Armored Core, or do you have?
It is
any
my
experience
first
with the
Armored
franchise?
Core.
Okay,
Yeah,
but you're a big From guy for the Souls stuff.
Yeah, I like Bloodborne's my favorite game of all time. I put a lot of hours into Elden Ring. I like From games a lot.
Yeah. But that's the funny thing is like they now have this identity, but they were the Armored Core guys
Totally.
for so long. And it's funny that I wonder how much shell shock people get who are in your similar position.
Yeah.
We're like, well, I love From. I've loved them for the last, 10 years. And now it's like, well, surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also like giant robots and customizing little bits and bobs.
I trust it. It's still got that like weird story going on in the background that I'd like to see unfold. I just like when he's Handler Walter, and everybody has cool names. So
the name of the game is cool itself. The Fires of Rubicon. I don't know what that means, but that's so cool.
It's super
hell yeah. So, all right. Then I'm last, I suppose. I've been playing 2 games, but I'll just talk about one of them, which is one that I don't think gets much love. It came out earlier this year. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon, trademarked. I'm just reading the actual name on the Switch eShop.
Good. I was confused until you said trademark.
Yeah, it's trademarked, so TM. This game is Delight. It is a Bayonetta spin-off where you play as a younger version of Bayonetta and you control. I knew nothing about this game other than it looked cool and I like Bayonetta. And the game itself is this super pretty looking storybook style Brothers esque game, like Brothers, if you played that, or I forgot what the full name of that game was, where you control 2 characters at once. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that was an actual mechanic in this. So you control Cereza with one thumbstick, and you control, the cat doll thing with the others.
Cheshire, right?
Yeah, Cheshire, yeah, and it's just fun. It's quick, breezy. It says I'm like 25% through the game, which is great because I have not spent a lot of time, and I am all about these tight experiences now, because as much as I love a good meaty RPG, I just don't have time. And the more bigger games come out and pile on, I just feel like I'm missing out more and more and more. And this game is just very delightful, very fun, super polished. And I think as far as an art style goes, I can't really liken it to anything else I've seen before. So if you have a Switch, anything I just said sounds interesting to you, then check that out. Also, if you're like, hey, I love the idea of Bayonetta, but like, what if she wasn't super sexualized and I also got to play as this demonic stuffed animal? Well, then this is the game for you. And that's yeah, I think so. Put that on the box.
It's not a character action game, right? It's not. Like
it sort of is. That's the thing. It is in a way, but the control scheme is just super unique in how you control the 2 characters at once. But the combat encounters, at times it almost feels more like an Okami encounter where you run into an enemy and it's like, okay, now you're encircled and you're just going to attack these things. But it's very accessible. It's not difficult. Like I think I talked about Solstice on a previous one. Like that's a character action game. I'm playing Final Fantasy 16. That's the other game I'm playing right now. That's a character action game. More so, and giant sweeping RPG. This has elements of that. You still have your upgrade tree. You still get moves. It's still in that third person combo driven stuff, but everything is super accessible. 1 button inputs. And I just now got the ability to start changing like styles. So you start just standard. Now I just got the green power. I don't know what it's called, but you turn green and then you could do things when you're green.
Nice.
Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. And that's the show. I'm going to do a quick wrap up here. First of all, thanks guys for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Talk about PAX. If you made it this far, that probably means you liked it. In that case, we appreciate it. And we appreciate you. And if you appreciate us, you should review this podcast. You can do that on iTunes or various other podcast services. I think you could review on Spotify. Do that. It helps. Say nice things or say bad things. But it's important. Give us 5 stars. So if you say bad things, put 5 stars, then say the bad things. That would be appreciated. Also, if you made it this far and you have bad things to say, I mean, thanks, I guess. Subscribe to the Discord. That's cool. You can talk to fellow Atari fans. You can write into the podcast channel, and you can ask questions and let me know what topics you'd like to see on future podcasts. We'll always try to align and keep them game specific. I'll also do some more one-on-ones talking to the team for some inside Atari baseball. But that's I would love some feedback here to know what you guys think and try to make this show better. Lastly, I keep forgetting to do this, but let's do this at the end here. You can follow me on Twitter and reach out. I am at Jays of Doom. Shaw, what about you? If people want to find you, if they want to stalk you, where do they go?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at TanConMan.
Okay. Well, that's something the rest of us can't say. Sam, what about you? Anything? Any plugs?
You can
plug yourself.
Find me on most social media at smug porky.
Yeah, do that.
The Ultimate Gamer.
Ultimate Gamer.
That's right. You got to see if that handle's available. See who you can buy that from.
I'm
sure
it's
it's
Ultimate Gamer.
Yeah. Give anytime you download a game anytime. Here's what you should do. If you really made it this far, if you've played any Atari game in the past this year, and you've played it on anything at all, just say thank you, Sam, at Smug Porky. Do that. No other context. You could say what game it was, but you don't have to. Just say thank you, Sam, or thanks, Sam, or arigato, Sam. If you want to write that in Japanese, you can do that. And I'm out of ways to say thank you. So do that.
Thanks,
no context,
Sam.
But he's the reason why. So do that. And that's it. That's the show. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, guys.
See ya.